Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Miami Community News, for allowing this opportunity. My name is Tarif Chowdhury. I go by TC for short, and I'm the CEO of Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital of Miami. I'll kick it over to the ladies to introduce themselves next.
My name is Jacq Castellanos, and I'm the Occupational Therapy Team Lead at Encompass Rehabilitation Hospital of Miami.
My name is Estevez, and I'm the Therapy Manager at Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital of Miami as well.
Thank you both for joining us today. So I know I get to work with you both on a daily basis, and I know the great work you both do. So what made you want to start off being a therapist? And, give it to you first, Jacq.
Sure. So at a young age, one of my younger cousins was diagnosed with a rare syndrome called Dravet syndrome. And this syndrome basically debilitates the human body, and it can cause severe seizures. She has developmental delays, some behavioral issues, things like that. So for the rest of her life, she would be experiencing some form of therapy, and that exposure became at a young age. I was about 10 years old when I started to realize and came to with what her therapy life looked like. And by far, her happiness came from watching her OT enter the home. So I knew from a young age, seeing that interaction happen, I knew that one day I wanted to have that relationship with one of my patients. So fast forward, I got my master's in occupational therapy, and I started my rotations, thinking heavily that I was going to go into pediatrics. Learned quickly pediatrics was not necessarily my field, but I really figured that out when I went to Encompass Health. I did a rotation there. And the beautiful thing about Encompass Health is that in the inpatient rehabilitation hospital setting, you get to see patients go from start to finish. So when they get there could be some emotional issues that they're going with because they're down. No one plans to go into a rehab stay. But because of the length of the stay that they're able to be with us, that 10 to 14-day period, you get to see them from start to finish. And I really enjoyed seeing that process, watching them grow emotionally, watching them grow physically, and watching that happen with a team of individuals that included occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy was beautiful. It was a nice, cohesive environment, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Wow, that's an amazing why. You use the words, I believe, debilitating. For our audience that may not know that term, what does that mean?
So right now she's 22 years old, and she functions at a much younger age, typically under the age of 5. So mentally she's been going through different difficulties. It's physically dehumanizing when you have to see your family member go through that. She's unable to walk properly the way that she's normally used to, or the way that we were normally used to seeing her. So you see her going through those changes. But one thing that has stayed true to her is her character. You walk into the house, she's happy to see you. She smiles. She knows our names, of course. She gets excited. And that makes all the world of a difference for us.
She must be so proud of you. That's an amazing why. Angie, how about you? I know I met you as the therapy manager there, but I know your background is occupational therapy. What's your reason for picking therapy?
Yeah, so I ended up choosing occupational therapy, but initially I had no clue what I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to make a positive impact in our community, and I knew I wanted to help other individuals, but I truly did not know what I wanted to do. I stumbled upon occupational therapy, and I was lucky enough to do some volunteer hours at a pediatric clinic and get exposed to what occupational therapy truly does and how they help the individuals get back to their goals. So that was my first internship. And then I had the pleasure of having my second rotation at Encompass Health Rehab Miami, where I was a student, and I just fell in love with the
So you were a student there as well as Jacq, you were. Okay.
Yeah, so we were both students there, and I fell in love with the profession, the team. The team at Encompass Health is very multidisciplinary. The therapists work with the nurses work with the case managers. We all work together for a common goal for our patients, and that's what truly drove me to want to stay with Encompass Health Miami. I started off as a student, and then I worked my way as an occupational therapist, then an occupational therapy team lead, and now, luckily, I am the therapy manager of the Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital of Miami.
Well, thank you for sharing. Your why is amazing as well. I always ask the question on what made you go into that field because, for me, healthcare, there's so many different reasons on why someone chooses to go into healthcare. And, knowing the why, I think, helps our patients and our staff really connect with us. So, no, thank you for sharing. So approximately 1 in 3 patients that receive inpatient rehabilitation services in the U.S. receive it at an Encompass Health hospital. What should a patient expect from our therapy team if they were to come to an acute inpatient rehabilitation hospital? I'll kick it over to you first, Angie.
Yes. So our patients come to our hospital and they receive 3 hours a day of therapy, 5 days a week. We focus on their individualized goals. And the first thing that when they do when we get there is do an evaluation. And in this evaluation, we see what their prior level of function is and how we can get them back to what that prior level of function was. We go based off their goals. Sometimes a patient's goal is as simple as sitting at the edge of the bed. Sometimes sometimes it could be a little more complex. You know, they have hobbies that they used to do before, such as gardening, doing laundry, things like that we want to get them back to that level. And that's what we focus on as a team. We want to make sure our team is helping our patients reach their goal of independence. We also do have an ADL room, which stands for Activities of Daily Living. So in this room, we simulate what the patient would be doing in their household, such as making a bed, preparing a simple meal, going into the laundry, getting the clothes ready, things like that. That's what we want to simulate with our patients so they feel comfortable coming back home after our inpatient rehab setting.
What are some of the other items in the ADL room that help them progress?
We also have a shower and tub transfer bench, which helps our patients practice transfers.
Okay.
You know, not always do a patient have a walk-in shower. Not always do they may need, you know, maybe a shower tub transfer bench or something like that. Maybe some grab bars added to their toilet or something to make the transfers, make it easier for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that. So, Jacq, I'll ask you this question. So Angie said the patients that come receive 3 hours of therapy a day. You know, for our viewers, you know, that sounds like a lot. Look, I can't work out 3 hours a day, right? So what does that look like for our patients? How can they do 3 hours of therapy a day?
It depends. So for some patients, it might be difficult to maintain doing therapy for 3 hours a day. And I think for someone that's not as exposed to therapy the way we are, they may think of therapy as just physical exercise, but it entails so much more than that. It goes up, especially for occupational therapy. We work a lot with the activities of daily living, which is why I love the ADL room, as Angie was just speaking about. So for occupational therapy, if I can, I love scheduling those patients early on during the day. And that way I get the patients ready in the morning. We'll help them adapt to their environment, get them dressed, take them to the restroom if they need. Maybe that patient hasn't had a shower in a few days, or they're just coming out of an acute hospital stay, so they haven't had a shower at all. So I'll kind of tailor the session based on that. And once I get them ready, then I'll set them up to do some exercises. Where that comes more into play would be more physical therapy, but OT really has a focus in that as well. So it's nice to kind of work together with those two disciplines and kind of see what the patient actually needs. Now, we also have a third discipline with speech therapy. So based on the needs of the patient, sometimes there may be some more cognitive deficits. They could be having some dysphagia, which would mean trouble swallowing, trouble eating, trouble, drinking water, things like that. So the speech therapist would work on that as well. So it's a very interdisciplinary approach. We can't just treat one patient with one discipline. We all kind of work together as a team. And that's how we make those 3 hours work.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Angie, I know we talked about the different disciplines there, right? We have physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. As a therapy manager, you oversee all of those disciplines. Can you give us a quick breakdown of each of them, please?
Yeah, so all three disciplines actually work very well together. Our ultimate goal is to get our patients back to the community and work on their specific individualized goals. For example, occupational therapy works on self-care tasks such as eating, grooming, upper body dressing, lower body dressing, footwear, toileting, and bathing. And then physical therapy works on navigating stairs, getting in and out of a car, getting in and out of bed, increasing their ambulation distance. And then we also have speech therapy, which works on the cognitive aspects of speech, as well as the swallowing as well.
What does the word cognitive mean for our viewers?
For me, cognitive is how the brain processes. Are they able to do simple problem solving, complex problem solving? How's their attention skills? How is their motor planning? Are they able to complete tasks? Do they need a second? Word finding issues? Are they having trouble speaking? Sometimes maybe they're seeing the microphone, but they can't realize that it's a microphone, and they think of another object and they name something else.
Okay, no, thank you for explaining that. So Jacq, when family members, people in the community really look at acute rehabilitation, there's still some misunderstandings around that. When a patient comes to us or a family comes to tour, what should they expect when they walk in? What do they see when they walk in through the doors of our hospital?
Right when they walk into the hospital, they're going to be greeted by the nursing staff. So they're going to get acquainted with the room, get acquainted with the situations that are happening in the room at that time. Typically, they won't get introduced to therapy until the next day. And in that case, OT usually comes in first, occupational therapy. And that's when we'll kind of gather an assessment. What is the cognition like? Are these patients, do they have a good safety awareness? Are they able to navigate the room safely? And that's where therapy really has a good connect with nursing, because we kind of give nursing that heads up, say, I don't think this patient is necessarily safe right now. So for now, we'll try and keep an extra eye on them, maybe modify the room to their environment just to be more safe. Some patients may not require a lot of assistance from us. So I'll communicate with them, encourage using the commode at the bedside, which is kind of an adapted toilet seat that we can put at the bedside. Let's say a patient can't navigate themselves all the way to the bathroom. this is kind of a modification that we can make for them. So we get to see a lot of interaction between the therapy and the nursing staff off the bat. And then fast forward towards the end of this day is when we can accommodate with those patients and say, you want to do some caregiver training before we get ready for discharge. And so the caregivers would meet with the therapist and say, this is what our therapy or what our home environment looks like at home. What are some recommendations that therapy might have to make it more safe or make it more adaptable to the patient's environment?
So what are some of the items that, you kind of touch on when they do ask you that question? What if, you have for example, we take care of a lot of stroke patients. Mm-hmm. So if you have a patient with a new stroke, say new right-sided weakness, they're nervous about going home. How do our therapy team approach that to make sure that the family and the patient's at ease?
So first I would go into the patient's room while we're doing the therapy sessions, assess in that patient's environment. A hospital environment is not typical or not comparable to a typical home environment.
So you're saying you would go to the patient's house to help assess this?
That could happen. Okay. So it depends if it's appropriate. So we do have home assessments available if appropriate, and also within distance. We do get patients from all over, so it just depends on what works best for all of us.
We also do have, sometimes the family members will bring a photo of what the current home looks like. So if we need to make any modifications, we're able to do that as well.
What are some of the modifications we do?
So sometimes in the toilet, we have to put some grab bars so it'll be easier for them to get on and off the toilet, maybe an elevated toilet seat. So it's also easier for getting them on and off the toilet. The tub bench, as I mentioned earlier, is something that helps them get in and out of the tub. Also, grab bars as well in the shower is also very important for that. Non-slip rugs. Rugs are very high fall risk for all our patients. So making sure we remove any floor rugs also from the home is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never really thought about rugs being as high of a fall risk until I came into healthcare. Because growing up, we had rugs all over the house. And aesthetically, they look nice. But then as you really learn about fall precaution, you're right. That's something that the audience and our community members may not really realize that, but it is a high fall risk. And, that's something that I really love about our clinical team at Encompass Health, just making sure we put patient safety first, and doing these tasks that you listed are, extremely helpful. Mm-hmm. When it comes to family members, during a patient stay, there may be a lot of questions that they have. What can they do to get updates regularly on them? Angie, I'll kick this to you.
Yes, so we have a very good new communication tool. It's the Encompass Health Caregiver app. And in this application, you can download it on any smartphone or tablet. Either the patient or maybe the family member can download it on their phone. And it shows them live, up to date, how the patient is doing and progressing with their goals in occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy. It also shows their anticipated discharge date, what day that they're going to be leaving the hospital. And it shows who their case manager is and the phone number to call them if they have any questions or anything might arise. This is a great tool, especially if we have some caregivers. Sometimes I actually helped recently a caregiver who was in Atlanta. Their family member was at our hospital and they wanted us to help them download the app. And I was able to successfully help them download the app through the phone.
From a different state.
Yes, through the phone. Okay. So they were able to, keep an eye on their family member. It's very difficult when you have a loved one in the hospital and you're in a different state and you're unable to travel. So that application, having them download that application gave them the peace of mind that, hey, their family member is doing better and is progressing to their goals.
So they don't have to necessarily be here to keep up to date with what's going on in their care.
No, they can download the application on any smartphone or tablet.
Okay, that's a great tool. Yeah. So we're on the topic of tools. What are some innovative technology that we have available at the acute rehab setting that patients could benefit from? Jacq, I'll kick it to you on this.
Yeah, my favorite is the BITS, which is a BioNest tool where imagine a large TV screen, but it's interactive. So it's touch screen. You work with the patients, and what I love about this tool is you can modify it to all the different diagnoses that we deal with. So you mentioned stroke. Stroke can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. You can have a very debilitating stroke where someone might be more involved, meaning they have a lot more deficits. They're unable to use one side of the body. They're unable to use their cognition in the way that they're used to. So those patients tend to be a little bit more difficult for the BITS, but we can modify it however. There are higher level strokes, meaning that the strokes could have been not as intense and the patients don't have as big of those deficits. So I can work on more balance activities. So while I'm working on a cognitive task, which could be, tracing a line or solving a puzzle, I can do this with a patient while they're standing up. I could do this while they have weights on their wrists. I could do this, incorporating different parts of therapy.
All right. No, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Angie, what about you?
The equipment that I would like to touch upon is the light gate, which is an equipment that we can use. It's like a harness that pulls up our patients, that the therapists don't have to be one-on-one touching the patient, maybe two therapists holding the patient up, and we can use it over a treadmill to help with ambulation and mobility, getting the patient to improve their balance, so that they feel safe walking and increasing
What are
their
some
distances.
type of patients that you see that benefit from that?
We use it with all populations. We see a variety of populations. We see a lot of neurological patients. This includes stroke, brain injury, and then we also have orthopedic patients, such as a knee replacement or a hip replacement. Those are patients that sometimes we use this equipment with, so that they feel like they're increasing their walking distance and they're able to do more for themselves.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So Jacq, patients as they get discharged from either the acute hospital setting or whether it be in the community and they need additional care, they have so many options, right? They have, of course, nursing homes. They have the acute inpatient setting. They have acute rehabilitation setting. You working in an acute rehabilitation setting, why should someone pick to come to an acute rehabilitation hospital over the other choices?
I think if you're really trying to maximize the amount of time that you have between having that acute incident happen and going to independence, which is the final goal, this is the way to do it. We have intensive therapy 3 hours a day. We have such a great team. So specifically speaking to our team, you're not going to get it better than this. We have someone that's constantly around the clock, rounding on the rooms, making sure that patients need what they're asking for. Nursing working so closely with rehab really opens that form of communication where they might have seen something at night that we don't know because therapy is not there overnight. So they tell us in the morning, hey, be careful because this patient had XYZ happen over the evening, or this patient mentioned they really want to shower this morning. Is that something we can make happen in the morning? So by opening that line of communication, we're really able to gather a holistic approach that really is tailored towards the patient.
Thank you for sharing. Angie, what about you? Why would you tell somebody to pick the acute rehabilitation setting?
Our team is a family. Our team has one common goal, and it's to help get our patients back to the community and work on their individualized goals. Our team works not just therapy team, not just nursing, not just case management, but all together as a cohesive group to get our patients to meet their goals. And I think that's what sets us apart from other hospitals as well.
Thank you. So at the inpatient rehabilitation, it's an up and coming field. And, we've always had this around, but as the population continues to age, as healthcare continues to advance and people live longer, I think the services we provide are really in demand, right? But when you think of acute rehabilitation hospitals, you think of inpatient rehabilitation services, for the audience that may not know what that means, some people may have the misconception that they have to be medically stable to be able to come. What do you say to those? We take a lot of medically complex patients. Angie, how do we navigate the medical complexity, but also making sure the functional gains are there?
Yeah, so we are very accommodating with our patients. Sometimes we break up our schedule. Sometimes you hear 3 hours of therapy. I can't tolerate that. So we're very accommodating, and sometimes we have patients who, prefer all their therapy in the morning. We help adjust that. Sometimes we have patients who prefer all their therapy in the afternoon. We adjust that. We even can break down the therapy into 30-minute segments. That way they don't feel overwhelmed. Maybe I can do 30 minutes of OT at 8:30, then give them an hour break and then another 30 minutes. Breaking up that session sometimes will help the patient feel more accomplished. And we're also able to do some bedside therapy as well, seeing them at the bedside, doing such simple tasks sometimes as washing their face, grooming, doing their grooming routine, anything just as simple as that. That is therapy, getting them back to feeling like themselves. And that's our ultimate goal. We want them to return back to the community and do as much as they can for themselves so they can be as independent as possible.
What if a loved one says that, I'd love for my father to be there, but he's too sick. He gets short of breath every time he gets up. How would we treat a patient like that?
So we give them a lot of rest breaks. We make sure that, in between breaks that they take longer rest breaks. We show them some breathing techniques. That'll also help with the process, making sure that they are doing as much as they can, but also giving them the rest that they deserve.
And I know, we have many specialties there and we have physician oversight there. How well or how closely does our therapy department work with our physicians there, whether it's internal medicine or one of the other specialties, rehab specialty, cardiology, neurology, whatever it may be? What does it look like as far as communication between our therapy team?
So we have a weekly team conference. That's where our rehab doctors meet with the case managers, the nursing staff, and the treating therapist. There we discuss how the patient is doing, what their goals are, and where their discharge destination is going to be, if they're going to end up going home or do they need further care after they are being discharged from our facility.
So it sounds like you have every discipline there that's focused on making that patient better ultimately.
Correct. Everyone is there.
And how do we communicate that with the family?
One way is the application that we talked about earlier. Also, but the communication, as Jacq had mentioned earlier, we do active leadership rounding in our hospital. All of our leaders are assigned a couple rooms, and we're constantly rounding on this patient, seeing what they need. And if they need to have an update from therapy, an email is sent, and we're able to go and talk to the patient and see how they're doing as well. Another way is towards the end of their session, we do a family training. So this is where we coordinate with case management to make sure that the family or caregiver that's going to be taking this patient home sees how they're doing. And if we can show them any adaptive equipment or any adaptive techniques, just kind of ease them back into the community. Any questions that they may have, that's the moment that we truly do, have a one-to-one, see what we can do for the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And now during the family conference, the family training, so we encourage their loved ones to come and participate.
Yes.
Now, how do we assist them if, for example, if we have a patient here that's, say again, post-stroke, new right-sided weakness, but their loved one is also having other debilitating, that's a tough word to say, debilitating illnesses, and they're not able to assist as much as we'd like. How do we navigate that?
Well, we can go through case management and see if there's any resources that we can provide them, maybe some one-on-one assistance at home, if there's anything that their insurance would cover, to see if they can have a little bit of extra help at home. That's what we would do, is provide them with the resources that they need from the community.
No, thank you for sharing that. I think that's very beneficial to the community. With healthcare, again, as being such a broad field as it is, and you guys both stated what made you want to be a therapist, and you both are in leadership roles, and knowing you both personally, I know you guys have progressed pretty quickly, and it's impressive because your passion is there. I can tell every time you speak that you love therapy, you love inpatient rehabilitation services, you love what we do. What made you want to go the leadership pathway? I know you're still clinical, you still treat patients, but you took a foot into the leadership pathway. So Jacq, what made you take that step?
I think it started from when I was a student, kind of getting that guidance from all different therapists. And when you're a student, I should say, we are all assigned a clinical instructor, and this clinical instructor oversees everything that we do. And when I was a student, I thought that clinical instructor was in charge of just me. But realistically speaking, once you got into the role, there were so many other people that were going to be paving the way for me to learn how to be a great therapist. Angela was one of them. Even though she wasn't really one of my CIs, she was someone that kind of helped to pave that way. And once I saw the impact that they made on me, I drove it to be my own impact to kind of impact others. So when I started to have students, I got engaged. I got very excited to share what we do, to share my excitement so that I can hopefully ignite passion in somebody else. And I feel like the best way to do that is in a leadership role. So I thought once the opportunity presented itself, why not try to challenge myself and also maybe ignite passion in somebody else.
Thank you for sharing that. I've been very fortunate to have great mentors in my career that have helped inspire me. Can you share with me maybe a mentor of yours?
It's funny you say that. I'd say one of my biggest mentors is more like one of my challengers is probably my father. He pushed me from a young age. I'll never forget, in 8th grade, I wanted to run for student council, but I was very anxious about it. And he was the one that said, no, you can do this. You can push yourself. You can do what you need to do. And I feel that every time I've gotten to a point where I'm trying to challenge myself, I can definitely find time to talk to him about it. And he always gives me that oversight to say, no, you can kind of do everything that you put your mind to. You just need that extra push. So if you need that extra push from me, I'm here for you. What do you need from me? And so having him in my corner has always been really nice.
That's great to have that type of support system.
Yeah.
Angie, what about you?
For me, I chose leadership because I wanted to be an advocate for my team. My team at that moment was having a lot of struggles with their department, and I wanted to be the person to get them out and the person to lift them up and lift up their spirits and make sure we're more of a cohesive team. And that's why I wanted to be their advocate and make sure that their voices were being heard. And that's why I chose leadership, because I want to continue to make sure everyone's voice is heard.
No, I think you both do a great job. And, if I didn't know you both personally, I would have no idea that you were both relatively new to leadership. You naturally took on it. And it goes back to the passion, right? The why behind what we do and the outcomes that we really strive to make for the patients in the community of Miami. There's so many patients that need our services. And, you two really highlighted today why they should come to an inpatient rehabilitation center, specifically, an acute rehabilitation hospital, because of the care that they can receive when they come here. What would you say to the community? If you were talking to them right now, what are a couple words you would tell them about just whether it's healthcare in general, about their care, about acute rehab services? Jacq, a couple words on what you would say to the community right now.
I feel like don't be scared. I think a big thing about hospitals and getting different diagnoses, there's a lot of fear behind of it. And I think the biggest reason that a lot of people have fear is there's lack of knowledge. And that's one of the reasons that we like to have these conversations, kind of speaking about what are the opportunities out there, because just because you had a stroke, just because you broke your hip, just because you had something happen to you that wasn't planned, doesn't mean that's the end of the road for you. There's opportunities out there. So just use your resources, reach out to people. Don't be scared. That's probably what I would say.
All right. No, thank you. Angie, what about you?
So the first thing I want to do is thank our team at Encompass Rehabilitation Hospital of Miami.
See, it's not just me. It's not just
It's towards
me.
the end. It's towards the end. I really do want to thank them. We're a great team, and I would recommend anyone come to our hospital and visit our team members. Just take a tour, see how everything is. Our team is very friendly. You know, going to work every day, everyone has a smile on their face, and I'm very happy about that. And that's pretty much it.
I think as awareness continues to grow regarding acute rehabilitation services, I think the community and, just patient population in general will see the care that we provide. When you guys touched on your why, what made you want to be therapists, I think that a lot of people can relate to a personal experience or a personal situation that led them to this point. As you work with the students, as you work with family members, as you work with your coworkers, leaders, et cetera, what is something that you look for as when it comes to someone that you want to work with, someone that you want to have take care of your loved one? What is it that you look for when you're looking to help hire somebody or you want them as a coworker of yours?
I look for passion and empathy. I think those are necessary qualities in rehabilitation. I've had students in the past where you can tell it's not really the setting for them. And that's the beautiful thing about therapy is there's different settings. But in this setting specifically, if you lack empathy, if you don't have that care for the patients, then it's probably not the setting for you. So when I'm looking to hire, when I'm looking to work with a student, that empathy component, somebody that cares for the patients deeply and has a passion to get them back to their full independence and their full potential is definitely what sets them apart.
Angie, what about you? Being a therapy manager, I know, you're a big part of onboarding and making sure we have the right people in the right spots. What do you look for?
I think my top thing is positivity. I think positivity goes beyond all the tasks that you might have as an employee or as a patient. You want someone positive working with your family member and loved one, making sure that they're positive about how they're progressing and how they're doing.
All right, no, thank you. Both of you work very closely together, and as I've gotten to know you both, again, I go back to the passion you have for our patients and the difference we make. Can you share with me maybe a patient story? You don't have to share the patient name, but a patient story that sticks with you still now.
There's so many. I mean, I think the one that sticks out to me most recently is we had a coworker that unfortunately had to come utilize our services. So once she came to our hospital, it's hard to see someone that you know so well go through something like this, but it's also just more attesting to the fact that anyone can go through any sort of accident and have to utilize our services. But I think what struck me most about her case was she was, like you said, positivity is huge. She was positive from the moment she got there. And that's not to say that there weren't moments where we needed to step in and be there for her. But watching her go through all of these positive movements, I mean, when she first got here, she wasn't able to even transfer from the bed to a wheelchair. She wasn't able to get herself to the bathroom. She wasn't able to walk on her own. I still have a relationship with this patient still going on afterwards. She's walking. She's able to do things on her own again.
Difference.
And seeing the happiness that brings to her face brings me a lot of joy. And knowing that she'll come back to work soon is also bringing me a lot of joy because I know I had a hand to play in that. But I also don't want to take full credit for that because all of these things come from the patient themselves. So if they don't have that passion within them, they won't make as many, it won't make as much of an impact or won't make as much progress as you would like them to.
Angie, I'm going to switch up the question for you real quick. In one word, and I know it's tough, right? Just one word.
One word.
In one word, how would you describe inpatient rehabilitation services? First thing that comes to mind.
Intense.
Okay, I like it.
Intense, but I promise it's not that intense. We really do work with our patients and we're very accommodating and we accommodate their needs. And our team as a whole, we do whatever we can for our patients at the end of the day.
And I think it's that quote unquote intense that helps them make the gains, right? When they're here, because like you said, you have to put in the work. Our team will support them any way they can, but ultimately they have to have the desire and we will encourage them and do everything we can to help them get there. And, I can't say it enough how proud I am to work with the both of you. You know, we have such a great team, and really highlighting what inpatient rehabilitation services is all about makes me very proud. You know, I'm very passionate about what we do. So I wanted to thank you both, you know, for your time and
Thank
joining
you.
me in this. And I wanted to thank, you know, Miami Community Newspaper for allowing us to come and speak about what inpatient rehabilitation services really are and how it can benefit the community. So
Absolutely.
thank you
Thank
both.
you.
No, thank you for having
everyone.
us.